Is the Czech Republic in?
Streaming live on YouTube. We're on YouTube, but we're not doing it.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice.
Hmm?
We see your screen.
Yes, I'm testing.
Yeah. I know, it's good. I had tested it earlier also.
I'm testing and I have added the Moran logo here that was not there.
Wow.
Hey.
Durango, how did you do that?
What?
The bottom of
Moran
the...
logo. Hello?
Now, all of us are here apart from Ada.
How did you put your slides on the screen?
How did I put my
Screen share. She's asking screen share.
screen share? Screen share, you go to the green button that has an arrow.
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
Yeah, your PowerPoint on your.
And then you choose the video that you want to share.
Oh,
You share the whole screen if you want to share the whole screen.
No, okay.
I'm wondering, are the attendees in the meeting already?
We're on YouTube.
Oh, they're on YouTube?
Yeah, they follow on YouTube, but we're already on YouTube, so I don't know.
Oh.
Guys, the meeting has started. It is being controlled by Solomon from somewhere else. So I think we should just plan to start as Ada sorts herself out. I can see the teachers are already waiting, so we can't keep them waiting for long.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
So where do we begin?
I think it's you.
That's why I needed this meeting last night. So that it's clear is what I mean, how we go about it.
The problem is that I keep on disappearing.
We are 8 minutes late.
We have somebody on from Marsabit.
I don't, Diana.
Sorry?
I don't.
I said we have somebody on from Marsabit.
Oh, somebody.
Another from Syokimau.
Uh-huh.
Rose Beatrice. Anyway, there are people waiting.
Okay.
Oh, that's Huka.
It's who can
Wario
see us
from
from
Marsabit.
Marsabit. Is listening.
Hello, Dr. Ari. You can also contribute.
You should.
Yeah.
Mm.
Matthias from Greenyard Junior in Gong. Welcome.
Someone close the screen share.
No problem.
Okay.
Done.
Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to Moran Publishers. Today, we have prepared for you a wonderful webinar. We're going to discuss how to teach English in grade 1 to 5, the CBC way. The title of our workshop today is CBC Approach to Teaching and Learning of English in grade 1 to 5. And Moran Publishers sincerely welcomes your presence and participation in this workshop so that we can be well equipped to handle our responsibilities as teachers and educators as far as the teaching and learning of English is concerned. So feel welcome, feel so much appreciated by Moran Publishers, and on my own behalf and on behalf of Moran Publishers, I would really wish that you feel that and you feel part and parcel of this team that is here committed to take learning to the next level. With us today, we have our dear panelists who are experienced teachers of English in all levels of learning and teaching. And I know that your aspirations and desires of the day shall not be disappointed. So first, I will introduce myself. I am Naima Kasim, Publishing Manager at Moran Publishers, and also a teacher of English like yourself. Then with me, I have my dear panelists who are the facilitators of the day. Joseph Ndirangu is sitting right in front of you. Joseph Ndirangu is a teacher of English and also a teacher of the year in 20. He will finish that. He will introduce himself when he will be bringing his presentation. And then we have Diane Omondi, who is also a teacher and also an author of English. Then I have Moran Kwamboka. Moran Kwamboka is a teacher of English and also an author of English books. Geoffrey Lijodi is also here with us. He's my colleague at Moran Publishers, and his core responsibility is bringing you learning and teaching materials at your doorsteps. Then we have Ada Ayer. Ada Ayer is a teacher of English and also editor of English. Therefore, with this great team, we have the confidence that by the end of this workshop, you'll be well equipped to equip learners so that they become competent in this language that we received. So we'll kick off our workshop of the day, and I will hand over this session to my dear facilitators. First, I'll give it to Joseph Ndirangu, who will take us through how to teach the oral skills. He's great in oral skills, and he's done so many publications. He's an author and has done great work when it comes to oral skills of listening and speaking. Mr. Ndirangu, kindly introduce yourself to your fellow teachers and take us to the next level we would like to receive from you.
Yes, thank you. I hope you can hear me, all of you. My network here where I am is a little bit unstable, solo. It's a little bit unstable. I wish I could be given a cable. Be better.
We can hear
Okay,
you
in the
clearly,
meantime-
sir.
You can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So good morning, panelists. Good morning, all participants, wherever you are in this country. It's a great honor to be here with you this morning as we deliberate on issues that are uppermost on our minds since the introduction of competency-based syllabus was implemented. I have been talking to teachers on the ground since we came up with this idea of having a webinar today. And I have learned a few things that are happening on the ground that a good number of us are yet to embrace the CBC approach to teaching and learning, and not only in English, but in other learning areas. I do appreciate the constraints that you go through in your teaching, and especially the issue of big classes and resources, and also the skills that we need. But I am a believer in starting small. I know KICD has taught many of you out there on how to teach the KICD, I mean the CBC, but I also appreciate that the way it has been cascaded is also an issue. And that's why when I talk to teachers down there, some say what they were taught is still yet to make sense to them. Now, this morning, we may not have all the answers, but we want to try to make it easy for you. And probably by the end of this session, we will have little or few problems to grapple with when teaching language skills in primary school. We know we are going to grade 5 soon, and we'll have grade 6 next year. And by the time we have our junior secondary school, which I'm told will be introduced in our primary schools, all of us ought to be at home with this new way of teaching. I want to look at, I'll begin with a general approach. And I want to share my screen right away. I want to share my screen. Teaching language skills, the CBC approach. And when I think of language skills, there's no way I can talk about oral skills alone without thinking about the other skills, because they are all in one paradigm. You cannot talk of oral skills and not talk of speaking skills. You cannot talk of reading and not talk of writing, because they complement each other. Now, why CBC? I want to begin with that question. Why CBC? What's wrong with the previous system? Because we have always taught English. Why do we have a new approach? I know I'm not saying this to you for the first time, but you have been told that for years we have stressed on the acquisition of knowledge, the acquisition of facts. When you write a sentence, we need a subject plus verb, the object follows with a complement. Those were facts. But then there came up the question of functional literacy. How many of us have gone through school and we have acquired these skills? It is a question of functional literacy. Did the literacy that we acquired in school help us in making our way around the world, in business, in academia, socially, at home? Because the idea of CBC is to equip the learner with the skills and competencies that help that learner become functional in a changing world, so that we don't have a learner who has gone through the system, has the knowledge, but cannot put that knowledge into productive use. Listening skills. Listening is quite receptive, something that is so deliberate. How many of us have proper listening skills? And how do those listening skills help us in filtering and encoding what we hear, what we receive from the environment? Speaking skills. How many of us are using those speaking skills to help us probably make friends, negotiate with people, communicate empathy, and so on? What about reading? The issue of having people who went through school, they are learned, but we have a problem of reading skills. We are not reading to equip ourselves with more knowledge. The competency of learning to learn was not properly instilled in us, so that we continue learning more and more through reading widely. And writing skills, obviously, the highest form of, the highest level of acquisition of language skill, putting down in writing what we have learned, what we have heard, what we have read, what we have thought about. So this is our takeoff. This is where to begin. All the four skills are all related. We cannot ignore any of them. You cannot speak if you cannot hear well. If you're not a good listener, you're not a good speaker. Because how do you respond to me? You must have heard what I communicated, not only in the words, but in the tone of voice that actually communicates my intentions, my feelings, and the like. You cannot write well if you have not seen what others have written, because it is in reading that we interact with the grammar. That's where we interact with correct use of metaphors, similes, idiomatic expressions, beautiful vocabulary, and the like. And then we put that into practice. At the end of the day, we write something that is worthy shouting about, that's worthy talking about. So I want to move to the next slide. There is something I've presented here graphically, and it shows the interrelationship with, between the four skills. We can't speak unless we hear. When we learned our mother tongue, we heard first and we listened to what our siblings were saying and our parents were saying. And then we were able to reproduce that. So you cannot speak well if you're not a good listener. For us to write well, we begin by reading. We read well, and then we are able to write. So we cannot ignore any of these skills. Now I want to go now to listening and speaking proper. Listening and speaking. I want to begin with a graphic that I presented here from Training Laboratories Bethel. And you may have seen this during your CBC training elsewhere. The learning pyramid. How much do learners retain from the listening input? How much? We want to teach them to listen, but after they listen, we want them to do things with what they got from listening. If you were to teach CBC with lecture only, if you lectured, our learners would only get 5%. It's 5% only. If it's reading alone, it's 10%. Audio visual, you are giving them images, moving images with sound, movie, or video clips, 20%. So if you are teaching a skill in speaking and listening, and you presented a video where some actors are doing some role play, that they are going to retain 20%. What about demonstration? It's you, the teacher. You demonstrate it to the learner. You want them to produce correct intonation at the end of a yes, no question. Then you demonstrate it in class. Then they are going to retain 30%. What if you put them in a group and they discuss the concept? You have the idea that you want them to ruminate or to think about or to talk about, then they are going to retain 50%. What about doing? What about doing? So you demonstrated, so they discussed. What about doing it themselves? So that what you demonstrated, what they saw in a video, now you want them to do it. They were practicing turn taking in grade 5. And now you want what you demonstrated to be done by a few of them or by groups. Then they are going to take 75%. There are always those very good students in class. And the good students always get bored because they understood before the others. And this is where you bring them in to teach the others the concept that you are teaching. And as they teach, they are going to retain up 90%. As they teach, what they knew, what they have acquired in that class becomes part of them. They will not forget it. And that's why this learning pyramid is very important. Let's remember that this applies to the average student, because you'll have all manner of learners in your class. I don't know where you are teaching. I don't know the kind of learners you are teaching. It is you who understands the entry behavior of your class. It is you who knows the various learning styles that you are likely to have in your class because of the kind of learners that you have. So this one is for the average student, and these are the retention rates. So as much as possible, let us do what is going to help our learners more. So because we want our learners to leave our classes functionally literate. Allow me to move to the next slide. So I want us to get down to the business of teaching. And I look at the various ways how you can teach. And I know I'm just trying to reinforce what you already know. Teaching by demonstration. Teaching through examples. It works a lot. You have to prove a fact. You have to give some evidence that will help learners reason. Because you've been talking about pronunciation. You are talking about a particular sound. But until you demonstrate that sound that you are teaching is still abstract. But when you demonstrate that a particular sound you are presenting in your class is pronounced in a particular way, then it will not make sense to them. So let us, as much as possible, demonstrate. Down there in the elementary classes, this demonstration is very important because learners are grappling with a new language. Learners are grappling with the basic pronunciation. And we know that English spelling does not correspond with pronunciation in so many cases. And for you to tell them that GH in the word rough is completely different from GH in the word though or through, then it's you who has to demonstrate it. So let us demonstrate as much as possible. We need a lot of patience down there. Those learners are young. Once we demonstrate, we let them practice. They say after us, before you introduce other words where they are going to practice. So let us demonstrate as much as possible. They will never know what rising and falling intonation is until you give them a statement and you say it and edit in a falling intonation. Until you give them a WH question and you say it and you edit in a falling intonation. Until you give them a yes no question, you say it and you edit in a rising intonation. So demonstration is very, very important. You can also use visual evidence because there is no listening and speaking that does not go with the paralinguistic features. And here we talk about gestures, we talk about facial expressions, we talk about movement, we talk about posture, we talk about maintaining eye contact, which is very important in listening and speaking. So we'll have to demonstrate that is a key point. Allow me to move to the next slide. Let's talk about teaching by collaboration. And this is where discussion comes into play. Because we want our learners to actively participate in the learning process. Throughout your course book, throughout skills in English, discussion has been brought out very, very clearly. That because we cannot do without discussion. Because as learners discuss, they are putting into practice what you taught yesterday. You taught them how to pronounce. You taught them how to give one another space to talk. You taught them to give each other respect. And at that point in time, they will be practicing the value of respect because they will be giving one another time to give their view. So they are listening to one another and then they are collaborating, an important tenet in CBC, and they are communicating. Communication and collaboration are key competence in CBC. It is only through collaboration that you will find yourself bringing in more and more important features of CBC. Also including the issue of gender, because as you put them into a group, you've got to mix so that we have both girls and boys in that group. And therefore, they will respect the other gender. And in the discussion, they have the chance to take control of their own learning. An important feature, an important tenet in CBC, they are taking control of their own learning. They are becoming active participants in teaching and learning. And when learners take control of their own learning, then they learn independence. And then independence is another key tenet that we have to instill in our learners because they are becoming independent. They are also not just passive consumers of knowledge, but they are also producing knowledge in a way. Because as they discuss, they come up with the issues that probably the teacher had not thought about. And through this way, then they become better and better learners. So let us try to teach through collaboration. You could have discussion, you could have debates in your class. And let's not ask the question, what do we do with the very, very young learners? Because in their own small way, there is a way you could still bring them into discussion. It may not be as advanced as you have in grade 4, 5, and 6. But you want to simplify what you are teaching. Simplify what you are teaching so that you also give them a chance to speak. You give them a chance to actively participate in this class. As we do so, let us not forget the special needs learners, because they are part of this system. Let us give them a chance. If you have those who have issues with hearing, ensure that you have teaching material that is going to elicit response from the hearing impaired. And we are talking about audio visual. We are talking about pictures. We are talking about illustrations. If you have the visual impaired in your class, ensure you also incorporate them in this discussion, because they are listening, they can hear. The only thing they cannot do is to see what is there. You will have braille for them. You'll have braille material for them so that they can have the key points that will be part of this collaboration. Let us not leave them out. And once again, let us remember those in our classes who are specially gifted, because these are the people we bring now into this discussion to lead the discussion and to show the others, because some of them understand even faster than the others. Allow me to move to the next slide and talk about learning by doing. Learning by doing. We are practicing. In this case, we are practicing. We want them to interact with the environment. Because what is the use of language skills? It is not supposed to help them interact with the environment. So there are those poems in our books, right from the lowest grade. And allow me to share with you, yesterday I spoke to a few teachers in a public school. And they are telling me that where poetry is presented in our books, that they are glossing over it. And the way poetry is presented in CBC is very, very simple, because it is meant to reinforce a concept. It is meant to practice a skill. So there is nothing complex in poetry in CBC. So allow the learners to practice the lines and recite those poems in your classes. Those poems may be carrying a particular sound, such as pa in people, such as ba in book. And as they recite the poem, then they practice pronouncing those words in connected speech, pronouncing that sound in connected speech. And therefore it becomes easy for them. So let's allow them time to recite the poems. We can even tell them to take those poems home and practice, so that the following day, the following lesson, they can recite. In reciting poetry, they are also practicing other skills that you have taught. Some poems we have presented in skills in English will have particular intonation. So as they recite those poems, then they are practicing correct intonation. Those poems will be carrying special expressions, such as idioms, such as phrasal verbs. So as they recite those poems, then they are making use of those phrasal verbs. They are making use of pertinent vocabulary that is part of a particular theme that we have woven into learning and teaching. And therefore, it is important. Let us not ignore those points. Let us have the learners recite them. It doesn't matter how they do it at first, but the fact that they are trying out. And that's why I started by saying right at the beginning, we are starting small. Start small. Don't worry the kind of resources you have. At least the government has provided the course books. So let us start small. I also want to take cognizance that through the digital literacy program, many of our public schools have laptops, and they also have other digital devices such as tablets. And if you make use of those tablets, what we are talking about here, about learning by doing, about demonstration, will become a reality. Let them take part in dialogues. How will you teach in grade 5 and 6? You know, taking turns. How do you teach them the value of respect if they don't take part in a dialogue? And there are many dialogues. There are many dialogues in this book. Many, many dialogues. I'm thinking of hymn 6 of grade 5 CBC. And there is a long dialogue about work ethic. And then when they take part in that dialogue, what we are supposed to instill in them as far as work ethic is concerned becomes a reality, just becomes a reality. So let them take part in dialogues wherever we find them in our curriculum design, in our course books. Let us engage them in storytelling. As a teacher, you demonstrate the storytelling skills, and then let them do it. They can do it in groups. They can do it in your classes. Let us impart in them how to capture attention, how to maintain it. And obviously, as they do the storytelling, they are practicing engaging with others. Learning by doing. Can they write samples of spoken English? Whatever they said can be put down in writing. That's learning by doing. And learning by doing here, it may not come too early. And this does not mean that we cannot have it in grade 1. We are saying if you are teaching a particular concept, then the other skills, the other methods come first, then they do it last. And that is why I give you that pyramid. You can see. So learning by doing, they must have the skill so that they can do it. So you must have imparted the skill. Here they are just practicing what you have taught them. You have taught them a particular skill, you've taught them, then you give them an opportunity to practice what they have learned. Very, very important. Learning by doing. Let it come after you have imparted the skill, and then it becomes relevant to them. There's something I never tire talking about, making learning relevant to the learners. It's only by making learning relevant to the learners that what you are teaching becomes meaningful. If what I'm teaching cannot be put into practice in class, outside class, at home, in business, it is not meaningful to the learner. So it is very important that they practice what they're doing because you want that to become meaningful to the learner. Allow me to move to the next slide. Teaching by teaching. And when we talk about teaching by teaching, I'm referring to having a learner who knows, who has the idea of what you're supposed to teach. Having what they have, and then they put it in practice now by telling the others what they know. Remember, we said that there are those learners who know more than the others. There are those learners who learn a concept and understand it before the others. And then you don't want that learner to get bored waiting for the others to catch up with them. Then what you do then is to ensure that that learner who knows is given a group, or probably the whole class, to demonstrate to them what they know. And then you know what we are going to do here. When we allow one learner to tell the others what they know, then learners will gain self-confidence. And what is self-confidence? We are talking about the value of self-efficacy. You see, they become independent. We strengthen their communication skills. They are able to communicate better than the others. And in doing so, they even learn more. All of you are teachers. I want to be majority of us who are here are teachers. And you realize the more you teach, the better you become. So when you allow the learners then to go through this process, then you are making them become better and better learners. So let us give that learner who seems to be ahead of the other an opportunity to teach the others. And obviously, this is also a skill that will come last because we have taught them, they have learned the skills, and now, apart from practicing, that is learning by doing, now they can also help others learn. So if you have comments, you could be doing that using our chat box. Be doing that using our chat box. I want to move on to the next slide. Someone's microphone is on. I can hear background noise somewhere. Let us keep them mute. Let us look at three functions of speaking. Three functions of speaking. And what is, talk is interaction, talk is transaction, talk is performance. We said right at the beginning that we are not just imparting knowledge for the sake of it. No, we are imparting knowledge because we want that learner to use that knowledge when they are out there. Because knowledge that's not being used is not helpful to us. And that's why I talked about functional literacy. And functional literacy means what we have acquired in class is helping us here, wherever we are, whether it's learners, whether the learners are in school or at home, or we are communicating with people, with their friends, with their relatives. The skills that they learn in English class, it's supposed to help them. So talk as interaction. So speaking having a social function. And here we focus on the speaker. So we want our learners to acquire speaking skills. We want them to have the correct pronunciation. We want them to communicate in their speech. Correct intention through the tone of voice, through the choice of words. Because talk is interaction. We are interacting with others. We are strengthening our social bonds. We are expanding our social circles. And as we do so, then we need to have the correct speaking skills. And if you go through the CBC course book, if you go through our books, we have tried as much as possible to provide learning experiences that help the learner pick up various speaking skills, be it pronunciation, be it intonation, be it the tone of voice, be it speaking with the correct pace, correct intonation, so that they are able to express themselves. And this is made possible by our numerous exercises that help them in developing personal expression, by giving them instances where they've got to speak in their classrooms, where they've got to speak to their colleagues in their classes, in pairs, in groups. And this strengthens the function of speaking as interaction. What about talk as transaction? What are we saying? How are we saying it? Why do we have a lot of discord in society? Is it because of how we transact our businesses? Is it because we don't have proper negotiation skills? Is it because we cannot even solve a problem using our language skills? And that is why role play and small group activities have been brought to the fore in our learner's book, Skills in English by Moran. Very, very powerfully. And in a very simplified manner, so that wherever you are teaching, whichever level you are teaching, you are able to bring this to practice. Because learners who have particular skills, learners who have the knowledge, and they cannot use that knowledge to transact, then they're not good enough to be sent out there in society. How good are they at using language to negotiate with others, at using language to persuade others, to convince others? The choice of words, so that they use the correct tone of voice, so that they are able to communicate their intentions. I will not ignore the fact that for us to transact well in speaking, we need to have correct listening skills. Because how do I respond to another person in a business we are transacting, whether it is just a normal conversation without having listened attentively and even listened with empathy? And listening with empathy means I can also feel what the other person is communicating. And this is brought to the fore in the many exercises we have in the text, so that the learner communicates their intentions and the person who is listening gets that intention, so that they are able to respond properly, to give a proper response, a response that fits the context. And this is where role play comes in, and small group activities. Remember, role play is a little bit removed from drama. It's not really drama. It's about giving learners a situation in which they place themselves and take up roles of real people in society. Real people in society. And then they do it either as a part of a group or in front of the class. So role play activities are many in our text, and you can adapt others on your own. Because in your learning, in your teaching, in your own training as a teacher, we know that we have our course book, we have our design, that these are supposed to help us, to have a beginning, and then we can also adapt our own role play situations. We can also adapt our own small group activities. But what you are provided with in the course book is supposed to help you get to get moving. And once you get moving, then things becomes easy for you. What about talk as performance? Performance is important. Why? We want our learners to be able to speak in public. We want our learners to be able to tell stories. We want our learners to be able to recite poems. In CBC, in competency-based curriculum, we have a lot of this, because speaking is a skill. Can our learners speak in public? can our learners recite poems? Now, remember the three functions are all in interplay. We cannot talk of one in isolation. And we need to impart these skills in our learners. We want them to be able to interact with other people at a personal level. We want them to be able to interact with other people as they solve problems, as they look for ways of going over surmounting obstacles in life. We want them to be able to perform correctly by mimicking written English, by speaking in public, by reciting poems, and by being able to tell stories. I want to talk about, or actually to summarize the principles for teaching speaking skills by going to the next slide. What are the principles for teaching speaking skills? What should we focus on as teachers? Let us focus on both fluency and accuracy. Fluency comes first. Before we worry too much about the accuracy, are they able to connect words and produce something coherent? Then now you worry about accuracy. So let fluency come first. Let them first of all be able to say something in connected speech. Then let us correct their accuracy. And as much as possible in our classes, if learners are practicing by doing, they are speaking, let us not stop them mid-sentence to correct and issue a challenge in pronunciation. We give them a chance to say what they are doing and complete. We worry about accuracy after they have finished what they are doing in their practice. Let us also provide intrinsically motivated techniques as we teach them. You know, I talked about having the learners take control of their own learning, to become active participants in their learning. And as you do so, they obtain or they achieve some intrinsic motivation to go on with learning and to also participate in what you are teaching at that particular time. So let us, as much as possible, use methods that are going to instill some intrinsic motivation in our learners. It's only an intrinsically motivated learner who will be able to go on with learning. And only an intrinsically motivated learner will have that competence of learning to learn. Let us also encourage the use of authentic language. And the authentic language is as much as possible provided in our book, Skills in English. In all our books, right from grade 1, we have a lot of authentic language. And I am sure wherever, if you have been taught anywhere, the CBC approach, you must have been taught about authentic learning experiences. Very, very important. Let us have authentic learning experiences because language is not found somewhere in isolation. Language is a means of communication. Language is used practically. So let us give them opportunity to listen to authentic language where people are speaking, where people are transacting business, where people are giving speeches, where people are pronouncing words in connected speech in real, in practical situations. So let us encourage as much as possible the use of authentic language. And this means even when you are providing a demonstration, you know, in your classes, whatever you give, let it be authentic. Do not have sample sentences from, that are beyond the comprehension of their learners. I would like you to have a sentence, probably, if it's one that you've decided to adapt or to adopt, let it respond to the learner's needs and experiences. Is it a sentence that refers to something that they know, either there in school or at home? This is where that's what I mean when I talk about authentic language. Let it be authentic. Give them authentic experiences. Then, principle number 4, we've got to provide feedback and correction. We have many exercises in our course books. And as you go through exercises, during that 5-minute lesson, let us provide appropriate feedback. And appropriate feedback must also be in a correct language, and the language that takes into account the feelings of the learner. And before we do correction, before we point out what is wrong, every good teacher must first of all show the good thing that a learner has done. Why? Because before you point out the errors, point out the strength in what the learner is doing. If it is during your classes, feedback may not only be written. Feedback is also in form of speaking. Okay? So as they give responses, are you giving them appropriate feedback by telling them that's a beautiful expression, that is very beautiful pronunciation, very, very important. And then we correct appropriately. And let it be correction that's going to help the learner. Let it be correction that a learner is able to identify with and is able to use on their own. Let us also capitalize on the natural link between speaking and listening, because we hear so that we are able to tell or to speak. We listen to people so that we are able to respond appropriately. The issue of attention, paying attention, being attentive, very, very important. Let us also give students opportunities to initiate oral communication. And that's where we are talking about practice by doing. Let's give them an opportunity to have some oral communication. Can they speak in our classes? Can they engage in a dialogue? Can they stand in class and speak, recite, sing a song that is provided in the course book? There are several songs that are provided in this course book. Can they sing that song? Because as they sing the song, they will be practicing their oral skills. Let us also encourage the development of speaking strategies by giving them opportunities to speak as much as possible. There is somebody with a gadget and another gadget and has not muted. Please let us mute our gadgets, please. Mute our devices so that we are able to communicate better. So principle number 7, I'm winding up this. Let us encourage the development of speaking skills. So I want to see this as I complete this talk on oral skills. I want you to remind you, engage the learners. Engage the learners. Let us use relevant context by making use of authentic language. As we do so, let us infuse the pertinent and contemporary issues. Let us infuse the competencies and the values as naturally as possible in our learning experiences. The course book has done that for you. But as you have seen in the curriculum design, they give us suggested learning experiences, suggested learning activities. It is for us also to find what else can we put in our learning so that we are not so much bound to the course book. Because what matters at the end of the day is that the learner achieves what we set out to give them. Let us also exploit the use of digital resources. And that's why I have reminded you about your digital devices that are there in your schools. Let us make use of them. I'm happy about schools that I have seen making use of these digital resources very, very well. Even our public schools, very, very well. Let us also make learning fun. I'm sure you know how you felt when you attended a class where your teacher was a little boring. You know, let us make learning fun. Let us make English, the best learning area. Let us take teaching of language to the next level. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to take it back to our moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph Ndirangu. Our dear teachers, listeners, and all participants, I believe that has been an informative session. And in case you would like to get in touch with Mr. Ndirangu for further guidance and assistance, he will type his telephone number and email address on the chat so that you can get him and consult further. Now, I would like to invite Diane Omondi to take us through how to teach the reading skill. Diane, kindly take us on.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be on this platform. And maybe, Mr. Ndirangu, you could remove your share screen so we can share a different screen. Thank you very much for that very informative time. My name is Diane Omondi. I am a teacher of teachers, particularly for early childhood, and also have written quite a few books for the CBC curriculum, teaching children's book, learners' books, as well as the teacher's guides. And today we want to talk about specifically reading. As we have heard, okay, I would like to be able to share screen. There we go. As we have heard already, we've had very good introduction to the CBC. We have heard that, are we seeing a slide there?
It is fine, we can see.
Okay, thank you. We've heard that reading is a receptive skill. Among the receptive and expressive skills, we understand that reading is a receptive skill. And we just have a small quotation. Reading, there are many little ways to enlarge your child's world. Love of books is the best of all. I just wanted to say that as much as we're facing challenges, and I don't know if I fully understand because I'm not right in the thick of it, but I can imagine the challenges that we're experiencing as teachers with very large classes, minimal resources, and now this new method that's supposed to be very learner-centered, or is very learner-centered, very individualized, differentiated learning. It's a lot to handle. And as we look at reading, I just wanted to encourage every teacher out there that we might not be able to master everything, all of the competences and the PCIs and the what and the differentiated learning and the multiple intelligences and the individualized learning and trying to do it all. And yet, really, at the bottom line or at the end of the day, we impart what we are. So do I, as the teacher of those children, really love language? Do I love reading? Do I enjoy getting into a book? Do I rejoice or get excited with the richness of the English language and the variety of the words and the ways to use words? Is that something that's part of me? Do I have a reading habit myself? And really, as one of the ways to maybe cover up our weaknesses or face those challenges and overcome those challenges that we're experiencing, is to really live this love of reading. And as we want to encourage a reading culture in Kenya, of course, we want to do that. We need to be lovers of the language ourselves. Mr. Ndirangu had already shared that reading gives us a 10% retention level, which is not very high. And yet we can incorporate these methods, these methodologies of additional activities related to reading in order to increase that retention. So we have discussion and collaboration Mr. Nderangu said that that gives us a 50% retention. And of course, as the learners read many materials, they can talk about what they're reading with the class. They can read collaboratively, they can read in pairs, they can read in turns. And then as we come to teach others, then we come to a 90% retention level. All of us as teachers, I think, recognize that when we really need to learn something, if we teach it, that's when we learn it. How can a learner teach others what they're reading? There are many ways. They can give reports, they can retell stories that they've read, they can write, they can illustrate, and we'll discuss all those as we go along. So as we can turn the reading experience into a teaching experience, then we even gain a much more powerful retention and learning capacity within the learners, because then we, as we've been told, the retention increases so much. So we want to nurture a reading culture. We're told that reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. And we know that exercise is very important. It strengthens us, it nurtures us, it gives us stability, and it gives us capacity. So reading does that for the mind. I just want to cover quickly 4 general areas in the CBC that are applied consistently throughout our teacher's guide books. And of course, in the learner's book, the Moran learner's book as well. But in the teacher's guide, these approaches that I'm mentioning are consistently applied. I'm reading right here, for example, on page 7 of the Skills in English grade 5. And we have a passage on Children's Day, where the learner is hearing about what's celebrated in the Day of the Child, International Day of the Child. And then we are led to discuss with the child about extreme violence, about radicalization, about human trafficking, about the dangers of child abuse. So through the reading, we move into a discussion that helps them to apply their learning. That's just one example. I'll give other examples as we go along. So as we read in the CBC classroom, we can use a variety of active reading styles. We usually have children just sit and read, but they can read aloud. If we have a classroom of learners who are supposed to be reading aloud, we can do what is called whisper reading, where they're actually moving their lips, but whispering that would provide all newspapers and magazines, so that you'll have like a buzz in the classroom of a lot of whispering. So they're still gaining the reading aloud skills, maybe not all the expression and all of those aspects, but they can read aloud through whisper reading and still everyone do it at the same time. We can have unison group reading. This is a very challenging skill, actually. Even as adults, I think we struggle to read in unison as a group, but it's a skill that can really help to increase, particularly if you as a teacher lead the group reading or the unison aloud reading. It can help to increase the expression, the cadence, the rhythm of reading, as we read aloud in unison. Reading in pairs is another method that can be employed, going back and forth between paragraphs. Of course, there are many, many dialogues in the CBC curriculum provided either in the learner's book or the teacher's guides, and they can alternate voices or alternate paragraphs as they read in pairs. As teachers, as I mentioned before, as we love reading and love English language, we would read to the learners, read expressively. We can read with that emotion, bringing out the meaning of the reading. Of course, we encourage learners to keep a reading diary, to keep record of their reading, to reflect on their reading, not just to swallow it in and accept it, but to reflect. What did I like? What did I enjoy? What was this character? Keep a record of their reading. We would encourage you to have a reading wall in class where readers can put up their illustrations, their reports, maybe an excerpt from their reading diary, and also a book display, a book of the month, or what have you read lately? Those kinds of things can just keep reading, keep books central in the minds and also in the visual experience of the learners as they see books on display. If there is a library in the classroom, or perhaps a library for several classrooms, make it an attractive place. Make it a place where the books are, okay, usually in a library, of course, books are lined up like this and we can only see the inside binding. But but we can have books on display, some of them with facing front, put out a variety of books, change the display of books in the class library or in the school library, so that reading and books are made to be attractive, sensorially attractive, not just when we put our eye on the written page, but even the appearance of books and the display of books to be a very attractive experience. We want to strive to provide a variety of reading materials. Of course, many of these can be found online. You know the different types of reading materials, so we don't have to read through that. For the sake of time, we'll just go to the next slide. Another way that we nurture a reading culture is to role model the love of books. I think I already mentioned that. And to encourage interaction of the learners with the reading material. This is where the discussion aspect and the teaching others aspect comes in so clearly. So a learner can describe the characters. And on page 23 of the teacher's guide is just one example of a place where the learner identifies characters. I'm speaking of our teacher's guide for skills in English, grade 5, that they identify the characters, they identify the places, they infer the meanings, of course, both factual and inferential questions, so they can imagine, what is this person like? Maybe there's a main character in a story. Stop and think, well, what kind of person is that? And of course, the actual text might not give all the answers, but a learner can extend and try to imagine that person, imagine what they look like, imagine the type of person they are, imagine what they are like to be around, imagine what their loves are, what their passions are. That can be extended as well for the places. Another very powerful tool in reading is to have a learner stop reading and think, I wonder what might happen next. Of course, in a chapter storybook, it's easy to stop at the end of the chapter, but even as we have texts in a learner's book, there are some places in the teacher's guide where we suggest, ask the learner to stop reading at a certain point and think about what might happen next. Even ask a question, do you think that Johnny will, what do you expect will happen? So that it expands, it encourages the engagement with reading, and it also expands imagination, creativity, and it helps in creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, all those skills, those competences are being applied. Of course, to extend the learning points, I mentioned that already, where we're talking about different aspects of child trafficking, etc., through a reading text and applying to daily life. Have you had an experience like that? Have you ever felt such and such? Have you ever felt the way the character feels in this particular story? Creating mental images. Of course, we have different learning styles. I think we're familiar with multiple intelligences. We're familiar with some learners who think or read in pictures, others appreciate words, others will want to act things out. So there could be, particularly for the picture smart or the visual learners, they will create mental images, and you might ask them to draw and illustrate a picture based on their reading. This is another way that they can share and engage. You can even challenge a learner to think about how would you have ended the story? If it were you, would you have had it end like this or end like that? Of course, what did you like? What did you learn? We mentioned the factual inferential questions and teaching children to do book reviews. As a teacher of adults, I find this extremely challenging, where we have people who have come through the system and they don't even know what a book review is. A book review is, what are the features of this book? What did I like about this book? What are the strengths of this book? What literary tools were used in this book? What is the summary? We need to have those book reviews going on so that the learner is interacting. You can do a new word search and play games with new words. We'll move on for the sake of time. Today, a reader, tomorrow, a leader. The CBC is very strong in teaching both intensive and extensive reading. There are skimming and scanning techniques that are taught throughout the curriculum. Of course, helping learners in extensive reading to be able to select what is applicable to them. Skimming and scanning to find the appropriate level, to find their areas of interest, to find the topics that they really love, and to read the materials that are appropriate. I think that's so that deciding and judging are basic skills that are addressed in the learning outcomes of the reading, and actually most of the English and probably all of the curriculum areas. So we're not asking learners to just to receive or to be receptive, but we're asking to engage, to decide and judge on reading materials. And finally, as we finish, if you're going to get anywhere in life, you have to read a lot of books. So we would encourage a teacher to even get involved in a reading club, a book club, be involved as a sponsor or a patron or a matron where possible. There you can have book exchanges. You can have learners who, you know, read one book and switch it with a peer to read another book, or recommend a book. I read this book, I really want so-and-so to read it. So once a month you could have a book that's recommended from every learner to another learner. You can involve the community in collecting books. Of course, group reading, if you have enough copies of one book, having everyone reading the same book at the same time and come together to discuss it. Caring for books, covering them, put them on displays, sorting them. All of these can be, oh, the last one here, write to a favorite author. We could encourage a learner. Many of the authors, particularly in our books being published here in Kenya, are right accessible and available, and you can write to them, engage with them, and help learners to realize that there is actually somebody behind this. As Mr. Darangu said, reading is receptive, but writing is expressive. And it's those who will read and get all the nuances of language and the richness. You know, there are grammatical patterns that are used in writing that we don't usually use in our everyday language. So as learners read, they get to experience the variety of grammatical patterns and vocabulary. We generally speak at a very we say basic level, but reading incorporates all the richness of language, and as it's good readers who will become good writers. I think that's what I wanted to say as we finish. Thank you very much, and let's love reading and be lovers of reading so that we can nurture that in the learners that we're sharing with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. I'm sure our teachers have captured a lot of information from what you have presented, the various styles of teaching, reading, and how to engage learners in active reading so that we change from what we have been doing. If I remember how I was taught reading, then I think the modern child is at a better place than where I was before. Now, just want, as a panelist, I would like to bring one of our key questions that have come from our followers, our participants. There is a teacher who is asking, how can he or she time reading aloud when a learner who is reading aloud is a stammerer? And so this learner is taking too much time just reading a sound. How can he or she time this learner? Because during read aloud assessment, a learner should read a certain number of words in a certain duration. Panelists, how can we assess learners with special needs when it comes to reading?
I think that understanding the uniqueness of every learner is a very important feature in the CBC curriculum, as well as just for us as caring human beings. To notice improvement in a learner would be one significant way to handle a situation like that. If you have a learner who struggles with stammering, okay, be encouraging. Maybe you don't want to embarrass that learner. You don't want to force them to read in front of the class. They can read privately, but allow them to see that there's some improvement or that they're doing well. So gauging or assessing a learner against or vis-a-vis his or her own previous performance, if we could use that word, so to speak, would be one way to handle that. Others could comment as well.
Thank you, Diane. Joseph? Okay, now, I also believe that the assessment rubrics could be customized to the needs of the learner. These are special needs learners, and we should customize our rubrics or our assessment tools so that we accommodate them and encourage them. We have to help them celebrate their achievements because they are not like others, but they are unique and special in their own ways. So I think teachers, we can embrace that and address learners and appreciate learners according to their own capabilities and the special needs that they may have. Now, our teachers keep on sending your questions as we move on. I would like to invite our facilitator, Moran. It is time we looked at the fourth language skill, which is writing. We've looked at listening and speaking, we've looked at reading, and now I would like us to look at writing. Writing. Moran, how can we teach writing actively and meaningfully? Karibu sana, Moran.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Naima. My name is Moran Kwamboka. I am a teacher of English. And as Naima said, I'm going to handle writing. So if I am not able to share my slide. Okay, can you see the slide?
You can see the slides. You can share
Okay.
in full. Please share in full.
Okay. What is it doing? It's not full, it's not full. Okay, so we are going to look at writing. And before we look at writing, I would like us to look at writing and connection. So we look at writing is a very important skill. It is an important part of communication. It is a skill that we learn that will help us in life and personally as well. Now, writing is mostly supposed to be learner-centered. If you approach it to communicate with your learners, help your So first of all, writing is supposed to be a learner-centered approach. And it being now you are agents. They are supposed to bring their own knowledge, their own past experiences, their own, whatever they have learned, and any ideas that they have. And the learner-centered approach usually helps learners retain more. Now, and you are the instructor, you're supposed to be able to fill that blank slate. Now, for you to be able to make writing a learner-centered, there are some activities that you need to consider, and Ndirango has explained them very well, so I'm just going to brush. Then let the learners develop their own content. If you've given them a composition and you've asked them to write a composition, maybe probably about an accident that has happened, then you need to be able to let them come up with the content on.
Moran, we have lost
Yes?
your movement, so your screen share it cannot be seen. So reshare the screen, please. We lost you for a moment.
My network is unstable. Are you able to see me now?
Yes.
Okay. Then our presentations are very important.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Now, we also learn another learner activity that you can be able to use is presentations. After the learners have come up with their content, let them be able to present their work. And this can be done by using digital devices. And sometimes not everyone can be able to access digital devices. So they can be able to use manila papers. If it is a letter, let them write it on a manila paper and present it in class. If it's a composition, they can be able to do the same. Now, a good competition is always very important in learning. So you can hold a competition and be able to award maybe probably the best student. And they feel good when you do that, and they will motivate them. This will motivate them to actually continue doing better. You can hold a debate, you can make your learning into a game, you can pose a problem, do a role play. All the things that Ndirangu has mentioned, so I'm not going to go into details. Now, looking at writing. So what is the important? Because it is a key element in communication. You cannot be able to communicate if you cannot be able to write. Speaking is important, yes, but for you to be, you cannot be able to explain something that you have not understood. So writing helps a lot in communication. It helps in organizing one's thoughts. You're able to plan and on what how you're supposed to begin something, the middle part of it and the end of it. Okay, excuse me for a moment.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, sorry for that. Then it also helps one expressivating. The moment you write something good, it inspires you. It is also a way of preserving special moments. It is also entertaining. Now, when we are teaching, how do we make teaching fun and interesting? And our book Skills in English has brought this out very clearly. You can use what we call writing evidence pictures and ask them to describe what is in the picture and then write a composition on it. Now, you can ask the students to get newspaper cuttings, put them together to tell a story. They form what we call a scrapbook. Now, if they're able to do that and tell their stories through pictures, then it is easier for them to be able to transfer whatever they have been able to describe into writing. And in doing that, it encourages the students' ability in writing. It makes it interesting to do that. They're able to develop their creativity by describing what is in the picture. And that makes it fun and interesting as well. Then you can also use templates. For example, if you're teaching filling in forms, you can give them a sample template, a template of a form with maybe spaces in between so that they can be able to fill in. The template, in a way, gives instructions, the teacher's instructions, and they're able to fill in examples in the text according to the teacher's instructions. And it's a guiding way of actually writing as well. Now, sometimes the students receive cards of invitation, sometimes they receive greeting cards. You can use the same to be able to teach writing. For example, you can ask them how many have ever received maybe an invitation card to a wedding, and they'll be able to tell if they have. Then you ask them to look at the cards and look at the components that are in the cards. Now, this will enable you to teach from known to unknown, meaning that they will look at what they already know when in the card, what is expected to be in the card, maybe probably the host's name, the person who is invited, the venue, the event, and maybe the time. And they'll be able to know that that is what is required when you're actually writing an invitation card. So it makes learning more interesting and fun. You can also use dictation. You dictate and the students write down what you're saying. One, it improves their vocabulary in writing and also improves their speaking. Now, Ndirango said that these skills cannot be taught separately. They are all integrated. So meaning that you cannot be able to write if you do not know how to speak and you do not know, and if you're not a good listener. You also need to be a good reader for you to be able to write adequately. Then you can also use what we call topical writing. You give your students a topic, maybe your topic is accidents. Then you ask the students to write about it, or maybe discuss the issue in class. What are they talking about in accidents? They give their opinions, they give their views, and they give their ideas on the same. If it is maybe probably drug and substance abuse, they're able to give their opinions, their views, and ideas on the same. Now, this improves their ability to write sentences and paragraphs, because they're able to come up with an organized way of presenting issues and how to handle the issue. Then joint writing in groups. So you can divide the students in groups and in pairs, give them materials on which to discuss in groups, and this creates good rapport. And as Ndirango said, it creates respect in the group. They're able to learn together in harmony, and it helps them also learn from each other, because each brings their own views and their own opinions on the same, and they're able to learn. You can also use filling in blanks. You write a story, leave in blank spaces, then ask them to fill in the missing blanks. It's a good story. It's a story that will be able to help the learners learn how to write. One, in filling in the blank spaces, it means that they have understood the aspect of the story, and this will improve their vocabulary and help them in understanding content in a sentence or a text. Now, jumbled up words. The students, you can give students maybe a story, rearrange it, and ask the students to rearrange the story in the correct order. This gives the students understanding, ensures that they are able to understand the content well, and they are able to lay it out very clearly. You can also use words and sentences. Now, using that will be able to help you as a teacher get to know if a student is able to understand the basic English. If they're able, it gives you a gauge on the basic knowledge of the English language for the students. And it helps improve their grammar as well. It improves their vocabulary and also helps them in understanding the content of the sentence or the paragraph. If they actually do not understand it, then they'll not be able to rearrange the jumbled up words or sentences. Now, these activities are very interesting. They're beneficial and they will help the learner a lot. Now, apart from the ones that I've mentioned, it's not in the slide, one way of teaching writing that is also interesting. For example, if you're teaching an imaginative composition, you can use what we call oral retelling of a story. You can give the students probably a single sentence, then they keep on building up on the story. For example, I went to the market. So each student has to add maybe probably a sentence or two to form a story. And in such a way, they'll come up with a very interesting story that they will have formed in fact, and it's also interesting, and they learn how to develop a story. Now, what are the benefits of these activities? One, it gives you a hands-on form of learning. The children learn by doing, and when they are able to create stories and they're able to create poems, etc. Now, the students are also actively engaged in learning. They take part in it, they come up with their own stories, they come up with their own plan of how to write a composition or how to write a letter, etc. It also leads to interpretation, problem solving, and critical. They're able to come up with a problem to a solution. Each story has a problem. It has a conflict, that problem, mostly in creative writing. Then it results in physical creation. after doing what you have asked them to do, they're now able to create their own. For example, if it's a letter, you have gone through the aspects of writing a letter, they have been able to identify the different parts of writing a letter. They're now able to come up with their own letters. Then it also develops their creativity, helps them come up with new content and write better. So in order to create and in order to do, the learners must be engaged in their classrooms. So it's always important to engage, find interesting activities where you can be able to engage the learners in. What is your role as a teacher? Now, as a teacher, for you to be able to actively involve the audience in these activities, one, you need to be able to control everything, be in charge, be the one to guide the students, show them where they have gone wrong and where they need to be able to, and how refocus the students in short. Then you also need to be able to organize these activities for them. For example, if it is the use of pictures, if they're not able to access newspapers, ensure that you're able to provide them with these cuttings and they're able to do it. And constantly motivate. Also get to know the abilities of your learners. Are they students who are able to retain information very fast? Are they doing it right? If not, be able to correct it. Then lastly, be the model, because students learn from us. So be the model so that they can be able to imitate you. If you're not a good, so write and imitate what you have written. Now, if you look at our book, the English, writing using pictures, it has been included. We have jumbled up words, we have use of templates and so many other things. So it has a variety of activities that will be able to enable our learners learn in a very fun way and in a very interesting way. So one, be a role model. Be a good writer so that your learners can be able to imitate. You cannot teach what you do not know. So first of all, you need to be a good writer for you to instill that passion and curiosity in your learners. Thank you for listening to me. And I think that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Maureen Kwamboka. And we would really like to apologize to our listeners and viewers for the interruption we have had during Maureen's presentation on writing skills. But we're going to share the slides so that we can follow it up in written. And then Maureen is available for further consultation. If you want to consult any of our facilitators, feel free. Maureen, kindly share your telephone number and email address with our viewers and listeners so that they can receive the clarification they may require. Now, at this juncture, I know our next speaker will not have any internet interruptions, so he will come out loud and clear. Geoffrey, your teachers are here, and they would like to know that you are present and you still love them and you are ready to serve them because you are here to serve them. Lejodi, kindly talk to our teachers. I can see so many schools are here with us and they would love to hear your voice.
Thank you very much, Naima, for the good work. And our panelists, it has been a very interacting and learning session. You've brought out a lot about our books. And I want to remind our teachers, our guests today, thank you for joining us. And you realize that all our authors are teachers like you. Moran publishers, we cannot write our books without teachers. So it's an idea that you have as a teacher And our purpose is to make sure that that idea is put into a book. And the lady today, Naima, is the one who controls all that, our publishing manager. And we appreciate the work that she does to ensure that the ideas that you have are put into a book, and these books are used by our learners. As a company, we are geared towards ensuring that we give you the right material, which is well researched, and our teachers, whom we use as authors, have ensured that the books that we have published can be used effectively to ensure that there is effective teaching and learning in your schools. So I want to speak about our course books because they were touching here and there about skills in English. And as the sales manager, it's my duty to present to you our books so that you can be aware of what we have from the presentations that I have put across. Our course for English is Skills in English. Skills in English is a course for grade 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are approved in grade 1, 2, and 3, and we also approved in grade 5. So as you prepare your book lists, you can confidently place our books on your lists because they are well researched and they are approved for use by learners in the country. Grade 1, 2, and 3, and before I go there are some features about our books that I need to touch on. Number one is when you use our books, you'll find that we have put work there that the learners can do in pairs. You'll find that we have songs in the books, we have poems, we have some take-home activities where we engage with the parents. Then we have My Corner, where we have more activities to enhance learning. And then from that, you find that in all our course books for CBC, we have incorporated activities and illustrations that bring out strongly values, competencies, and PCIs. So from the illustrations, before you even look at the content, you can clearly ask your learners to tell you what value or competency or PCI that we are trying to bring out, and it will come out very strongly. So that is briefly about our course books. And in our course, Skills in English, you'll find that we have a variety of activities to enable learners to explore. We give them a chance to explore because that is the spirit of CBC. We have also covered all the outcomes in the syllabus. All the outcomes are covered with activities that are engaging. We have also activities to encourage parental involvement in learning of their children. So there's a lot of activities where we are giving a learner a chance to go home and engage with their parents in this course. And then also we have activities which enhance literacy and communication skills. You've seen the way our facilitators for the day have brought out that very strongly, and this has been incorporated in all our books. So I want to encourage you to look at this course. Skills in English is a course you can confidently use in your schools and you'll get the desired results. So for grade 5, we have gone further. Skills in English grade 5. This is a course that has been bought for all the public schools in the Republic, and we are currently supplying the book to all the schools in the country. Grade 5, you'll find that we have another aspect where we have introduced review exercise in every page, in every theme, after every strand, you'll find we have introduced a review exercise. This review exercise gives the learner an opportunity to know whether they have understood what the teacher was teaching. And then you can see the review exercise there. This gives them confidence, and the teacher is able also to track the progress of learning. We have the Just for Fun section where learners can enjoy about themselves. They can be able to be taken off a bit and just to make them have fun as you teach. In grade 5, we have a digital corner. A digital corner gives the teacher an opportunity to engage with the learners and also gives the parents an opportunity to connect their devices for their learners to be able to learn more while at home. Like here, we are saying With the guidance from a parent or guardian, download poems about etiquette from the internet and recite them. That is digital literacy. We have also introduced how to improve your vocabulary. We also have where we have further practice. And then we have ensured that the illustrations again are bringing out the values, competencies, and PCIs very strongly. Skills in English Grade 5 is for you. You can have it on your book list confidently, because this is a book that has been well researched and well written. And then to back up that, we also have literacy. We have skills in English literacy activities for grade 1, 2, and 3. And again, skills in English, you find the literacy activity book, and encourages the use of learning materials from learners' immediate environment. And then we also have a variety of activities which enables learners to learn and explore by themselves. And all the specific learning outcomes again in the syllabus have been covered in this course. And then you'll find also activities that enhance literacy and communication, well illustrated and with a lot of activities in our skills in English literacy activity, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. All these books are available in the market. You can place them on your book list. And then lastly, I want to speak about our latest product. We realize we have a lot of challenges with sounds, even in the old curriculum. So we are the only company that has come up with a book to give learners an opportunity to practice further on sounds. So steps to English sounds, we have published for grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. So teachers, when you have learners who have issues or challenges in sounds, we are giving you a book that specifically addresses that with very interacting activities, and you find them having a lot of interest and fun. So our steps to English sounds, you find that these are sounds based in the competency-based curriculum for specific grades. And this has been harmonized with all the sound aspects of the CBC curriculum to build the learner's vocabulary and to enrich language and learning environment. We use sounds as building blocks to break through in literacy. And with these books, we exploit and differentiate sounds that are often confused. With these books, we have included parental engagement and activities. And lastly, we have interesting activities that stimulate learning. So the steps to English sounds, these are books you can also place on your book list, and you'll find them readily available in bookshops across the country. I just want to mention something I can show you from this book, like on page 49, where we are giving them very interesting activities. We have puzzles, we have where they can read and feel. By doing that, they get confidence in the books by use of the books. So from my side and the marketing team, we have a marketing team across the country, but I would wish to share my number so that I can connect you with the team that we have that represent this company in locations where your schools belong. So my number is 0722, let me give you first my Airtel number, 0733 333 280. 0733 333 280. We want to thank you all for joining us. We are ready to assist you in coming up with the professional book lists that will enable you to achieve the goal of ensuring that we teach effectively and the learning is enjoyable. Thank you very much, and back to our Naima.
Thank you, Geoffrey. I know that these teachers who are here and others out there really love you. And we know that you are showing them love too. And they will surely reciprocate by using skills in English. Now, our dear teachers, you've listened and heard from us, and we are also glad that you have been talking to us through our chat. Many of you have asked or requested for us to continue running workshops, the physical workshops and the online workshops. And we would like to promise you, together with my colleague, Lijodi, and our dear authors who have been our facilitators of the day, that we shall surely continue partnering with you so that we can make learning and teaching of English a success in our country. You know, it is a received language. We received it from the UK, from Britain, but we will make it one of our own strong resources. So send in your requests for workshops in English, especially because teachers want to be taught or to be helped on how to address the skills in English. Surely, first of all, use skills in English, and we shall help one another know how to address those skills. So Lijodi is here to receive and plan for all our workshops, either online or physical, when this calamity will be over and we shall be allowed to run across the country. We shall come to your counties to run those workshops together with our authors who are here with us. Now, I would like to invite our colleague, Blaise Mwangi. Our time is so much spent. We had promised to run this workshop for 1.5 hours, but we know we have gone beyond what we had promised, but we really ask for your forgiveness on that. So Blaise, kindly just talk to our teachers and our viewers and listeners so that we can wrap up this meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naima. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, our facilitators. Mine is just to thank everybody for participating in this beautiful webinar. We have looked at your comments and we can tell that you're all happy about what has happened. Allow me just to also thank particularly the teachers for your patience, for attending this. From your comments, we know you would want to have a physical meeting or a physical workshop with the 3 others that have done a beautiful job. And we want to promise you that as we communicate and when times allow, and if we're able to deal with the protocols of COVID-19, we are going to ensure that this information gets to you in a more physical way. We spend more time and it's going to assist our teachers. May I thank Lijodi, my colleague, for also telling us about the books that can be used. I just want to insist that those books that, particularly for English, skills in English, literacy activity, is also written by Diane Omondi, one of the others who talked to us. And this is an area, when we go around, we realize that quite a number of schools have ignored this important learning area. And I would also encourage you to make sure that you include this in your book list. We are also aware that the lower primary schools, the grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 teachers are also struggling, particularly with books that actually never got to schools. And when I'm talking about the learning area, I'm talking about music and art and craft. There have been challenges, and when you look at some of the lists that are coming out, you can see they are forgetting to include music and art and craft. And I want to tell you that we as Moran have gone ahead and tried to address that challenge that you're going, and we have developed activity books for music, which can be used by learners. And I have a copy here. This is beginning music for grade 1. We have for grade 2, grade 3, and we also have beginning art and craft, which is also for grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 to try and cover the challenge that you people are going through, and particularly your lower primary school teachers. And we want to believe that this is going to help them. Make sure that you include these learning areas as you give your book list or even as you buy for your learners, because this is part of CBC and we cannot ignore those learning areas, because when our learners were assessed, national assessment, these learning areas were also not left behind. They were part and parcel of the assessment, so we should not forget our children. Thank you once again. I want to thank the facilitators for your good job, and I want to assure you that I'm sure the learners are, the participants are extremely excited, and we hope that the more and better things that we are going to see. Allow me to recognize some of the schools that told us that they were part and parcel of our webinar. This include Dista schools from Mutange, the Beacon Academy, Kamontobo Primary School in Kuria East, Migori, Kidi Farm from Sokimau, Green Junior in Ngong, Light of the World Academy, St. Anne Girls Primary, Mumias, Kakamega, Joseph Academy, Jewel House School in Syokimau, Busara Forest View in Nyahururu, Wami Academy, Nairobi, St. Joseph Harman, Rudan Junior Academy, Mudasa Academy, Mabanga Twin Star Academy in Bungoma, and all the schools which never participated in writing the charts, but we know you are there. We are truly, truly grateful, and we thank you, and we believe that you're going to impart the knowledge that you have gotten to our beautiful kids back in our schools. Naima Kasim and Lijodi, thank you also for organizing this, and we want to thank you more sincerely, and we ask you to continue organizing and planning for more. As I close, our facilitators, hatujawasahau na tunawashukuru sana, and we will call you again when these teachers would want to have a physical meeting with you. Thank you very much. I also want to give my number just in case you would want to get any information or to organize anything with Moran publishers, particularly those of you who are in the central part of Kenya and Nairobi. And my name is Blaise Mwangi, and my number is 0733 636507. I will repeat it again, 0733 636507. Thank you very much, Naima. I wish you all the best together with the team. Asanteni, Mungu awabariki.
Thank you so much, our guests, for coming and for joining us during this workshop. We really appreciate your presence and your support, just as our colleague Blaise has said. I've been your host, Naima Kasim, and I know that we've been talking to teachers, and teachers could be wondering, where do those authors come from? What are the qualifications of an author? Please send in your request or your application on our email address, which you will get on our website, our Facebook wall, on our YouTube, and we shall surely see how we can partner. And at this juncture, I would like to close this workshop and promise you that we shall continue partnering. We shall send you more invitations because a lot is lined up so that we can together empower one another. I've seen some of you calling these sessions in service. Yes, we are practicing teachers, but we need to continue honing our skills. So thank you so much, and let us look forward for another invitation on English or any other learning area, and God will bless you. On behalf of Moran Publishers, would jointly wish to have a good day, sending you greetings from all the management at Moran Publishers and staff at Moran Publishers. Would really wish you the best of all the days. So for now,